I'm storyteller and author Pleasant Despain, and you have a wonderful imagination. Welcome to Pleasant Journeys. My story for today is the legend of William Tell. It is found in my Books of Nine Lives series, Volume 4, Tales of Heroes. Now, this Swiss legend began in the 14th century, some 800 years ago. There was a hunter who was quite skilled, named William Tell, who lived high in the mountains, and he did well for his family with his hunting skills. Now, at that time, the town of Altdorf was ruled by a cruel Austrian governor named Gessler. And Gessler ruled with a black heart. He imposed high taxes on the people. And if the people couldn't pay, he put them in prison. And he also had people tortured and killed for minor offenses. Well, he went so far as to put a red feathered cap on top of a pole next to the town of Altdorf's fountain. And he said this represented the King of Austria, and every Swiss citizen who passed before it had to bow low as if it were the king himself. And if anyone failed to do so, they would be severely punished. And one day, William Tell, with his oldest son named Walter, they walked down that steep trail from the mountains to the town of Altdorf. Tell needed new arrowheads for his crossbow. He had no idea of the hat on the pole. He had never heard of it. And he and his son walked right by the fountain. And suddenly a guard yelled, "Stop, peasant! Get down on both knees, both of you, and bow before the king." Tell said, "I bow before God, not before some silly hat." The guard blew his loud whistle, and several soldiers surrounded Tell and his son Walter, and they led them to the governor's house. Oh, Gessler. He was in a foul mood that day, and he looked at what he considered these two peasants. "So," said Gessler, "who are you, a peasant who feels he does not have to bow before the king?" "I am William Tell. I was not aware of your order." "Oh, as if that would make a difference." "William Tell. Yes, I've heard that name. I've heard that you are quite a good archer. Is that true?" "I usually hit what I aim at." "Oh, that's excellent. I think we need a very special punishment for you. Yes. Let's have a contest in accuracy. Now, I think the target should be a red apple. Yes, a big red apple at 100 yards. Do you think you could hit that?" "I could try." "Good," said Gessler. "Now, there is a linden tree about 100 yards away across the field. We'll take your son over to that tree. He can stand in front of it, and we'll place the apple on his head." "No," said Tell. "You cannot be serious. Please, you jest." "I never jest," said Gessler. Walter, his son, said, "Father, I trust you. You can hit the target." And they marched his son across the field, placed him in front of the tree, and one of the other soldiers found an apple and placed it on his head. And Walter, he looked at his father standing so far away, and he began to shake, and the apple rolled off his head onto the ground. He quickly snatched it up and placed it back on his head, and he stood as still as he possibly could until was handed an arrow for his crossbow. And he felt along the shaft of the arrow to see if it would fly true. And the arrow snapped with the power of his thumb. "Bring me my quiver," he said. "Let me choose the arrow." And Gessler agreed. They dumped his arrows from his quiver on the ground in front of him. And Tell knelt down. He took his time finding the right arrow. And once chosen, just before he stood up, he slipped a second arrow under his shirt. Then a crowd gathered round, and Tell placed the arrow in the notch of the crossbow, and he began to draw that heavy, tight string back. And the crowd started shouting and booing and saying this was unfair. And Gessler said, "Quiet! To the next person who yells, I will have you killed." And so the crowd settled into a very uncomfortable silence. And then Tell raised the crossbow, and he began to aim so carefully at the apple sitting on his son's head. And he took a breath, he let it go. His finger wrapped around the trigger. He took another breath, he let it flow out slowly. He squeezed the trigger gently, and the arrow flew slicing through the air, and it landed right atop Walter's head. It pierced that apple, and the arrow stuck quivering into the linden tree. The crowd erupted, "Yay!" Walter, he ran all the way across the field, and he embraced his father, and his father was on his knee embracing his son. Gessler said, "Very well. It was a job well done." But when Tell stood up, that second arrow fell from his shirt. "What's this?" said Gessler, seeing all. "The second arrow," said Tell, "was for your black heart if I had missed or killed my son." Gessler, so enraged, ordered Tell jailed. But it wasn't long before he was able to escape. And he killed the cruel governor. And the Swiss people have told this story ever since. Well, they say legends are born of truth. And we all need heroes in our life. I'm glad I got to share this story with you. Be kind enough, if you will. Give the story a like. And if you would subscribe, I would be so happy. And also, if you have a question, a comment, whatever, leave it below and I will respond. And below, you'll find my website My website has all of my books listed with direct links to Amazon.com. Thank you so much. There are so many stories yet to tell. Another story to tell next week.